Raymond Franklin Krystinick was a co-worker of Michael Paine, the husband of Ruth Paine, and he was actually with Michael Paine at the time of the assassination and at the time the news came over the radio. And I'm going to read a portion of this document. It's an HSCA document. It's not dated, but it's obviously of a preliminary nature before they had done much of their own investigating beyond reading the available information. And I've never found an HSCA interview with Krystinick or any indication that one exists. But here they're talking about Krystinick. The Warren Commission testimony of Raymond Krystinick appears in Volume 9 of that commission's hearings. He was a co-worker of Michael Paine, the man in whose home Oswald's wife and child resided at the time of the assassination. According to an FBI report dated November 25, 1963, which was part of the Warren Commission records, Krystinick had occasion to be introduced to Lee Harvey Oswald at a meeting of the American Civil Liberties Union. This meeting was held in Dallas following the rather abusive reception United States Ambassador Adlai Stevenson experienced on his visit there 1 month before the assassination. Oswald spoke up at the meeting and opined that General Edwin Walker was behind the incident. It should be pointed out that Walker, a local right-winger, figured prominently in the Warren Commission investigation. They reported that on the basis of available evidence, it was most probable that Lee Oswald had made an unsuccessful assassination attempt on Walker's life. Getting back to Krystinick and the contents of the FBI report marked Warren Commission document number 75, we find that Oswald and Krystinick that evening got into a heated discussion of the merits of communism versus capitalism. Afterwards, they are reported to have gone their separate ways. Krystinick, accompanied by his wife, did something out of routine for a devout Catholic and who neither smoked nor drank. In the 10 years of their marriage, Mr. and Mrs. Krystinick had never been to a nightclub. On the same evening that they met Oswald, they decide to see the floor show at the Carousel Club. The report indicates that they saw, but did not speak, with the club manager, Jack Ruby. When Krystinick testified before the Warren Commission, he was not questioned regarding the contents of this FBI report. A member of our staff has made initial contact with Krystinick, who is still residing at the same place he was when he testified before the Warren Commission. And as I said, I found no indication that they actually interviewed Krystinick. Maybe they did, but the HSCA documents it's not like the Warren Commission interviews. They have interviews all over the place, and they're not all collected into a volume that has been published. And who knows if some of them exist, or if they're transcribed or just on audio tapes. It's not clear. But anyway, what we have here is an amazing coincidence. Krystinick, who never goes to nightclubs, doesn't know Jack Ruby, on the night that he has an argument with Oswald, ends up going to Jack Ruby's Carousel Club. An amazing coincidence. This is the FBI document referred to, and this is the portion that refers to the visit to the Carousel Club. Shortly after this statement, Krystinick and his wife, Charlotte Emily, left the campus of Southern Methodist University and drove to the downtown business district of Dallas. Krystinick stated that he and his wife have been married 10 years and that neither of them drink alcohol or smoke, and they had never during their married lives been to a nightclub. He stated, however, that night he and his wife went to the Carousel nightclub in Dallas to see the floor show, and at that time he saw an individual, apparently the club manager, whom he saw later on television identified as Jack Ruby, the man who shot Lee Oswald. Krystinick and his wife had no conversation with Ruby or any other club employee while in the club. Krystinick said that he did not see Lee Oswald in the club, and as far as he knew, Oswald had stayed behind in the vicinity of the campus of Southern Methodist University after the meeting adjourned. So, what the HSCA document says is correct. There is this amazing coincidence of Krystinick and his wife going to Jack Ruby's club after talking to Oswald. That document was part of a Warren Commission document, but if you go to the key person's website where the working documents of the Warren Commission that have been released are hosted on the official government site, you won't find that document. You'll find these two here referring to FBI interviews with Krystinick, interviews which the documents say occurred on December 30th, 1963, and were typed up on January 9th, 1963. Two documents authored by James Hosty, apparently, not the same agent who did the November 25th interview. And one document deals mostly with what Krystinick says about Ruth Paine, and the other deals with most of what was in the November 25th document. These two seem to be completely unnecessary, considering they already have the November 25th interview. And I think probably these were made in order to have FBI reports of interviews with Krystinick, which did not include his trip to the Carousel Club, because the trip to the Carousel Club is not included in these documents, and these apparently are the documents the Warren Commission actually used to prepare for their interview with Krystinick. So whether the Warren Commission chose not to know that Krystinick had visited the Carousel Club, or whether somehow they were prevented from knowing it, I don't know. But apparently it was completely ignored, as they do not ask Krystinick about going to the Carousel Club. Jack Ruby and the Carousel Club are not mentioned in his Warren Commission interview at all. So the most amazing coincidence that comes up regarding Krystinick was not even mentioned by the Warren Commission. Now, this Krystinick incident of after having talked to Oswald going to Jack Ruby's place reminds me of the encounter Ralph Leon Yates said he had with Oswald on November 20th, 2 days before the assassination. Yates stated he gave Oswald a ride on the highway to Dealey Plaza, and on that ride Yates stated as they drove along the man had asked him if he knew a certain party whose name Yates cannot recall now, and he had indicated to this man he did not. He said the man then asked if he had ever been to the Carousel Club, and Yates had replied that he had serviced refrigerators in the past in a number of clubs, and that possibly he had been to this one, but he did not recall. Now a lot of people, maybe they don't believe the Yates story. I do. I think it's true. And here we have an instance where Oswald's talking to somebody, Yates, and he mentions Jack Ruby and the Carousel Club, which of course is what we have, or what possibly happened with Krystinick. That is, if Oswald had mentioned Ruby or the Carousel Club, that might explain why Krystinick went there. Of course, that's not what the FBI document says. And subsequently, Yates gave the FBI a signed statement, and in that statement he says Oswald did mention the name Jack Ruby. And I think probably he remembered that during his first interview too, but had decided not to say so, and I'll get to why I think that. I guess I might as well do that in this video. But here, just to reiterate, I think if Oswald had mentioned, as he mentioned to Yates, if he had mentioned to Krystinick, then that would explain why Krystinick went to the Carousel Club. And after giving Oswald a ride, I think Yates actually went to go meet Jack Ruby. I have a video about Yates, so I'm just going to go through this very quickly here. We have on the left here, this is a Dallas police report of an interview with Mary Lawrence, who said that she saw Oswald come into the B&B restaurant on the night of the 21st and meet with Jack Ruby. I think this was not Oswald. I think it was actually Ralph Yates. And as I have boxed in red there, it says, at this point in the interview, the subject stated that she could not be sure that this man was Oswald, but if he had a small, deep scar on his left cheek, it was him. And on the right there, we've got from an FBI report of an interview with Ralph Yates. We have a description, and under scars and marks, it says 2-inch burn scar running from left corner of mouth upward on left cheek. And so it sounds like the guy that met with Jack Ruby at the B&B restaurant had the same scar on his face that Ralph Yates has. So I think after talking with Oswald, for some reason, Ralph Yates felt motivated to go meet with Ruby. And this, I think, implies that something similar happened with Krystinick. Even though nobody said so, this is what happened with Yates, and I think this is probably what happened with Krystinick. That is, Oswald, for whatever reason, in whatever context, mentioned Jack Ruby in the Carousel Club, and Krystinick decided to go there. I don't know if he met with him, I don't know if he talked with him, but I think that explains the amazing coincidence. And I think it's worth contemplating, because apparently somebody, whether it was the FBI or the Warren Commission, decided to hide this in the Krystinick story. And the FBI did not supply the Warren Commission with the Yates documents. And I think this is probably intentional, because it probably was known by the FBI that Jack Ruby and Lee Harvey Oswald did know each other, did associate, and that this had to be hidden in order to hide the fact that the assassination was a conspiracy.